Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
On behalf of IIRF, welcome you all to the IIRF Aerospace and Defense Technology lecture series. This is the fifth lecture in the series, and which is designed for basically the industry and the MSMEs and startups and the IIT scientists to familiarize with them or to have a bridge between the defense services requirement, and the private sectors. Okay, I will not take long. I will introduce the speakers today because today's talk is a little special because we have none other than Mr. Guru Sowle, who is the Director, Indo-US Affairs at IIRF India and the founder of President and IIRF Americas. So we are very fortunate that he will be sharing his the tremendous work that he is doing to create a Indo-US defense industry corridor, or rather trade corridor. And a lot of job work he has done, and he will definitely, I'm looking forward what he shares with us. So Guru is a corporate growth leader, speaker, anchor, and finance professional. He is a chartered accountant by background and has held leadership position in Big Four consulting companies. That includes PricewaterhouseCoopers and Arthur Andersen. Guru has been a C-level executive helping the corporate world with tangible growth strategies for over 25 years. He has worked across globe and has consulted hundreds of companies, both large and small, in his career. He has also mentioned several startups and specializes in advising companies seeking presence in the United States. He has helped several companies, both in the USA and overseas, to prepare them to raise capital, and is also managing a portfolio in the wealth management domain. Guru has actively been involved in key initiatives in building strong ties between India and America. He was, please note that he was recently appointed as the India advisor to the World Trade Center, Utah. Guru is on the board of several organizations, including Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI, Dallas chapter. We are also fortunate to have today with us Lieutenant General Arun Sahni, PBSM, UYSM, SM, and VSM, who is the former General Commanding in Chief, Indian Army, and President of Information and Security Council of India. He is highly decorated scholar soldier whose experience encompasses command of staff assignments in India's most inhospitable and conflict-affected areas to battle external and internal security challenges. Lieutenant General Sahni has represented India as a military delegate at UN headquarters at Geneva for the international conference debating banning the land mines. He trained with the British Army for a year and represented the country as a military diplomat for 3 years at the Embassy of India, Moscow, Russia. Presently, he is mentoring startups, new initiatives that are in the domain of information security and HR management. An active member, active speaker at seminars and various think tanks within country with a specific reference to national security issues, external and internal, international and regional dynamics impacting India, issues related to cyber, force multipliers, surveillance, nuances of counterterrorism operations in Northeast and J&K, dynamics of integration of Northeastern states, strategic and visionary leadership skills, nuances and impact, tactical nuclear weapons on the South Asian deterrence dynamic. So with this, I will request Brigadier Sandeep to give his welcome address and request our honored speakers to start the session.
Thank you very much, Raj. Today is a very important subject being discussed when the international relations are in a state of flux, and that is where the two big democracies of the world, the collaboration between these two are an important subject which should be discussed, and some amount of uh, flux can be identified and how it can be taken forward. The Indo-US collaboration in trade, technology, aerospace, and defense is poised for a significant growth and expansion in the coming years. Both nations have recognized the immense potential of this partnership and have taken concrete steps to deepen their ties. In the realm of trade, both the countries have been working towards reducing trade barriers and promoting bilateral trade. The recent signing of the Asia Reassurance Initiative Act, ARIA, by the US, which spreads from Western Sea, from the western part of India to the western part of USA, and by the US Congress, is a testament to the strengthening economic ties between the two nations. This act not only reaffirms the US commitment to enhancing its economic engagement with India, but also encourage greater investment and trade between the two countries. Furthermore, the US and India have been actively collaborating in field of technology. The US has recognized India's potential as a hub for innovation and has been promoting technology transfer and collaboration between the two countries. This has resulted in the creation of several technology incubators and innovation hubs in India, which are helping to foster culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. In the aerospace sector, the US and India have been working together to develop advanced aerospace technology. The recent agreement between Boeing and India's Tata Advanced Systems to manufacture Apache helicopters fuselages in India is a prime example of this collaboration. This partnership is not only creating jobs in India, but also enhancing countries' aerospace capability. In the defense sector, the US and India have been deepening their strategic partnership. The two nations have been conducting joint military exercises and have been collaborating on defense technology. The recent agreement between the US and India to share advanced military technology is a significant step towards strengthening their defense ties. However, currently, India-US ties are going through a rough patch after Washington asked New Delhi to come clear on the alleged conspiracy to eliminate the dreaded Khalistani separatist Guru Singh Panun, an American-Canadian citizen, on the US soil. While leaders of both nations are working hard to iron out the differences, voices from a section of the Washington power corridors have started calling for a review of bilateral defense ties. In conclusion, the Indo-US collaboration in trade, technology, aerospace, and defense will be beneficial for both the democracies in the long run. Both nations have recognized the potential of this partnership and are initiating concrete steps to deepen their ties. Let us hope the minor irritants will be resolved and the bilateral ties are strengthened for mutual benefits and long-lasting strategic partnership between the two nations. With this, I would like to hand over to start the webinar to Lieutenant General Arun Sani. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sandeep, and thank you, Raj, for having organized it. And we're delighted that today we have Mr. Guru, who's going to be speaking to us about issues which have really been on the forefront as far as our defense collaboration with foreign nations at the G2G level has been, and that's with the United States. As Brigadier Sandeep mentioned, the recent agreements and the talks have shown the intent of the United States to have India as a strategic partner in the space of manufacturing and development of these key assets. And I think what speaks volumes is the fact that after the Prime Minister's visit last year, when we talked about the 414 engine technology transfer to start taking place for HAL, it actually speeded up. It received all governmental clearances for issues to finally move to the executable stage. And why I'm mentioning this, it's an indicator of the intent, because if you look at the AUKUS agreement that is there, it is still awaiting congressional approval to be able to move in that direction for the developmental activities to start as far as Australia is concerned. So I think priority has been given by the American government. And I think the forthcoming visit of the team from Utah, along with being led by Mr. Guru, or as a partner in that team that is coming to India, again augurs well for the startup and the MSME sector, because I think two, three things one has to acknowledge for sure. With the coming of the current political regime and under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, things have changed. I think there has been a change at the user level, and if the army can change, then you can be sure that the Air Force and the Navy was far advanced in engaging with the industry. The Army Design Bureau, the effort to try and handhold startup and MSMEs with the help of academia in areas which they have been problem areas or areas where they're looking for innovation and new technology to sort of look at our improvement of our legacy systems or to deal with pinpoints that exist within their operational and tactical regime for being tackled. So you have the Technical Development Fund, the IDEX, the DAP 2020, and I think more importantly, the startups and MSMEs being allowed to participate without any with special provisions for up to 300 or to be extended up to 500 crore projects itself speaks that there is great resonance in this particular space. And anybody coming from outside with critical technologies, with niche and emerging technologies assistance would have space in Indian defense industry to find collaborators, find partners for it to be looked at as an indigenous development where there are certain provisions that have to be met. As you're aware, 23-24 indigenous products were ordered by the Ministry of Defense to the tune of about 75%. So that itself speaks well of the importance given by the current government to make the landscape easier for people to come and connect. And I think with that, I would hand it over now to Mr. Guru, give us a viewpoint from there where he's been actively involved, not only from the Indian viewpoint, but also from the American viewpoint of how do they see industry. And with that, over to you, Mr. Guru, and then we'll see how it goes along in the question answers for other issues which are of interest to people who are on line today, which could be looked at for collaboration there or look at issues related to the Indian defense industry. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Guru.
Sure. Thank you, General Sani. It's an honor to share the platform with you. And also, I want to recognize all the board members and the patrons and advisors in IIRF, both in India and in the US. We also have Ines Nasri, one of our advisors in this session from LA. I also wanted to particularly thank Srina Srivastava from Delhi, who's really helped me to prepare for this presentation. As you all know, I very rarely prepare for a presentation, but this time I've been fortunate to have Srina's support, and she's in this session as well. And good morning to everyone in India and all the industry folks. At the outset, I'd like to kind of salute the military community, both in India and the United States. It is because of you all that we are so safe, and we owe it to you. And it's always a pleasure and honor to share the platform and talk to you, share whatever 2 cents we could. And on that note, I'd like to start by sharing a... Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming in.
Yeah, so collaboration in the Indo-US space has existed for a long time in various forms, particularly in the last 2 to 3 decades. If we can step back a little bit, it started with transaction processing. I remember the days when companies like Infosys were doing outsourcing work, and they started with data entry. And this is when internet was just opening up in early 2000, late 90s, and the technology world in India was gradually maturing to take on a lot of work from the West, particularly from the United States. So I think India has been a major player in transaction processing, process outsourcing, handling documentation, and being a great destination for services. But particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, that landscape has changed substantially. And in the outsourcing world, I'd like to kind of use that context to kind of capture the progress we made from where we were 20, 30 years back to where we are today. And thanks to the leadership in India for that. So we started with, simplification, standardization, and shared services and outsourcing. And every IT company in the world, in India, wanted a piece of outsourcing, particularly from the United States. And we started with simple processes, then we graduated to critical processes, and IT industry matured to a point where, Fortune 500 companies in the US started relocating their data centers, their back offices, their, technology infrastructure back to India. So India literally became a technology capital, and there is a reputation we came into, early in the 2021, 22, 23. We had a huge strength in that, and literally we've been dominating the outsourcing space. But what changed in the last 5 years, 5 to 10 years, I must say, is shift from process outsourcing to manufacturing. And today, thanks to the change in geopolitical situation, good or bad, we don't know. But the fact remains that as far as India is concerned, today, America especially is looking at India as a destination not only for process outsourcing, but for also manufacturing. So India as a manufacturing hub is being spoken about in the US, in the private sector, in the government, the Senate, and Congress, and White House. So India is really being looked at. There's a need to scale. It's also a great opportunity for India. So if we look at 2023, India's Ministry of Defense achieved significant milestones under Prime Minister Modi, like General Sani mentioned. And then the fifth positive indigenization list was released. Defense production surpassed 1 lakh crore rupees. I just attempted to convert that into dollars. I'm a chartered accountant, but I use ChatGPT to do that. So it's about $133 billion in manufacturing, and then 16,000 crore rupees, which is about $33 billion in terms of dollars. And of course, you have several examples that Brigadier Sandeep and General Sani mentioned, and of course the Prime Minister has been very forthcoming in terms of repositioning India. I also had the opportunity and honor to be invited by the Prime Minister to meet him in New York when he was here in June, and we had a extensive discussion on what is India's position in White House. One question he asked me is, look, every time we come to US, thousands of articles get published in the press about what's happening and the kind of deals we're going to, and some of the contracts and deals even we don't know, but the press is talking about it. But this time we wanted to cut the chase and meet people like you to really find out what is the pulse for India in White House, in Capitol Hill, in Congress. And we had a discussion about collaboration, about especially MSME sector. He also spoke about the youth power in India, and he specifically told me to look at that as one of the major assets India has, even as we are building the Indo-US Corridor. And I'm also quite fascinated by the Prime Minister's vision to make India a destination for work. It doesn't mean people leave India. It just means the world comes to India. And I think that is a shift which has happened. So India has got the pull factor now. It doesn't have to push. I don't think there's any country in the world that can ignore India from a collaboration or from a business perspective. And today's discussion will be focused more on aerospace and defense. It doesn't mean other sectors are less important. It is just for convenience and to do justice in the little time we have. we'll cover a little bit about aerospace and defense and what's happening. And I'll also talk to you about the initiatives with World Trade Center and our upcoming delegation to India. And so the budgets have gone up. India's talking big numbers, even as we prepare to be, the third largest economy in the world. I think there's a substantial contribution towards GDP, towards India's economic growth coming from the aerospace and defense sector. And that's being recognized by everyone across the board, political, economic, chambers of commerce, corporate world, both in US and in India. Another interesting trend that I wanted to share is it's not about just manufacturing in India for India, right? It's about Indian manufacturing being a global hub for global needs, as well as the new trend we are seeing is Indian manufacturing companies moving to US to set up factories. So it's not about setting up software development center. I think we've come a long way. Today we're talking about setting up manufacturing facilities in states like Utah, Virginia, Texas to manufacture high-tech defense equipment and partner with the US manufacturing base in aerospace and defense, mainly for two reasons, right? When Ukraine got invaded, the world changed completely. It impacted the capital markets. It impacted economies across the globe. It also impacted substantially the supply chain. And America needs India today, not simply because of cost arbitrage. It really needs India today to be a strategic partner to also address the supply chain issue. Companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, they all have huge backlogs. They have billions and billions of dollars of backlog, and they're not able to fulfill their minimum commitment of take commitment when they go to countries like India. They don't have too many vendors. In China, they have 7,000 vendors, but India, I don't think we have as many. And that's really a problem as well as a great opportunity for the Indian small and medium sector to scale up. And I was sharing with the Prime Minister that we have 63 million manufacturing small and medium companies in India. And this is a critical, mass which no other country can boast of. And this itself can create a whole new wave of growth for Indian economy. And I think that is what US is looking at. With 63 million startups, even if a micro percentage of that can scale up and be ready to take on the opportunities that are coming India's way, I think it's going to change the landscape for Indian defense manufacturing as well as the collaboration possibility. And as I'm talking, you can read through the examples that I have shared here. And going forward, we're looking at the infrastructure as well. And I know Indian government has scaled up on infrastructure substantially, and we don't have to go into too many details on that. Let's look at the collaboration space. So one of the significant changes that I personally noticed since I was with the PM and Mr. Jaishankar and Dawal when they were here in June, this was not Indian government, Indian Prime Minister, going overseas just to make some announcements and get media attention. The real deals happened when Prime Minister Modi was here, and that was so fascinating to see the transformation in the way Indian government is approaching, even as it scaling up to be a superpower, or at least rub shoulders with superpower. So one of the messages I'm tempted to share is when Prime Minister told us, he said, look, I'm not claiming India is the best country, but I'm very sure we will make India a better place, a better country, and a better collaborator for the United States. He was very transparent and very down to earth about that statement. And that was quite impactful. I think that was really impactful. So that journey, that progress, the process of growth that India is witnessing is simply fascinating. And entire America is watching it, and we can't wait to see a lot more growth in the sector. So US, was reserved for a long time. Sharing technology, especially in aerospace and defense and critical sectors, was always, a guarded decision. There's a lot of politics as well. We can't, de-link and, mitigate impact of politics in some of the decisions. But at the same time, whether it's, Republicans or Democrats in the US, they all agree that they look at India as a strategic player, right? And that's good news as far as India is concerned. So you can see the examples here. Even 2 to 5 years back, sharing technology was a big issue in sectors like aerospace and defense. Today we have US, which has already decided to transfer F-414 jet engine technology to India. India signed a big order to buy drones. There's a lot happening in the semiconductor space. Companies are being encouraged to share technology. Government is working with the private sector in the US to be much more open as far as collaboration with India is concerned. And it's a fact. It's an open secret now that US is, gradually and as fast as possible. It's a paradox, but it is what it is. To kind of steer away from China as much as possible and start developing partnerships with dependable democracies like India. I think that's really where the huge opportunities. We saw the GE deal that was signed when Modi was here. And there's also a robust agenda going forward as far as aerospace and defense is concerned. So what does the future look like, right? So Government of India has set a target of 1.75 lakh crores of defense production by 2025. And this is huge. And for the benefit of my friends in US, I attempted to convert this again via ChatGPT. I couldn't do it on my calculator. So we have 2025. This is about 233 billion is what we're targeting. 33,000 crore rupees translates to about 46.7 billion is in exports is what we're talking about. And this is in line with Atmanirbhar Bharat vision of the government in India. And so as India's manufacturing, aerospace and defense supply chain improves, the collaboration and exports will also improve in some proportion. May not be directly proportionate, but there's going to be a direct impact that we are anticipating. So aviation, defense, space. Again, space economy is a huge opportunity for collaboration. In fact, I spoke in UN last February on space economy, and I mentioned about what kind of budget India used to put the satellite on the moon, the Chandrayaan success, which is the cost of making a Hollywood movie, and that is India. I think that strength, I don't think any other country can replicate. We're looking at a CAGR of 6% from 22 to 27, and the way things are looking. If I wear an economist's hat, I can see this surpassing very, very comfortably the way things are evolving. And let's look at some prospects of growth here. Of course, COVID and Ukraine war, and of course several other geopolitical changes that happened, including the Israel-Hamas situation, and what happened in Afghanistan, and of course you all in India are much more familiar with the China factor and the Asia political factor, and also the role that Quad is playing. If you look at any of these geopolitical ramifications in the recent past, India is in the forefront. I was in a offline conversation with Dhaval and Jaishankar when they were here in June. And another colleague of mine from another think tank was asking Jaishankar, look, what's your take on Russia, right? So the foreign minister replied, he said, look, Russia and China. And he said, look, we have a long relationship with Russia, but it doesn't mean we're going to endorse crime. It also doesn't mean we're going to withdraw everything. It's not possible. We need to protect 1.4 billion people in India. And our foreign policy will be, coexist. First, we need to take care of our 1.4 billion people, and then our foreign policy will integrate with what's happening in the world. And he was so candid; it was quite startling to see those kind of sharp responses, which is very heartening to hear. Our leaders in India who've really shaped India to where it is today, and of course, we're witnessing the GDP growth as you're all seeing in the Indian economy, and government's mandate to reinvest 70% of military project costs in India, which is a huge encouragement to joint ventures and manufacturing capabilities. I must also share with you, it's not just about joint venture today. I think today the collaboration has gone to a totally different level. There are private companies in India and in US which are now forming clusters of companies. So there are private sector groups that I personally know as well, who are talking about bringing a few hundreds of Indian aerospace and manufacturing companies to the US. It doesn't mean they're moving away from India. It only means that they're enhancing the supply chain capability for the world by taking on additional geographies. And what's being looked at as hybrid manufacturing. The part of the development manufacturing can happen in India, and then assembly can happen in US. And there's a collaborative, a model that is being evolved. So I think cluster programs is something that we need to watch very closely. And of course, the big players, I'm sure, are already watching this trend significantly. But the point I'm trying to make is this is a huge opportunity for small and medium sector. If you're a $50 to $100 million company, or even a $20 million company, there is a path for Indian manufacturing company to export, to identify opportunities to export more, to manufacture for US, for the world, as well as companies that want to expand and have additional manufacturing facilities in US. There is a path. And from the think tank, from Indus International Research Foundation, we have created a path, a mechanism to facilitate some of those conversations, and I'll talk to you in a bit about that. So we did touch upon aerospace and defense, and then I'd like to kind of pause here to kind of summarize where India is today. India is a destination for manufacturing in critical sectors. In addition to aerospace and defense, sectors that really matter to the world going forward is artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, semiconductor, quantum computing, and this is really where the meat of growth is for India, and everyone is new in this field. There's no established player, either as a government or as a private company. Of course, we do have the Googles and Facebooks and Amazons of the world, but they are also looking at India to kind of scale up in this domain. So these are some of the sectors that we will be focusing on, even as we as a think tank promote collaboration. And recently I had the honor of being appointed on the board of World Trade Center as India advisor, and I'm quite excited, not because I have an additional title, To me, sitting 10,000 miles away, it's an opportunity for me to steer US to India. It's a vehicle for me to bring growth to India, bring both countries closer. Of course, India and US have always been close, but today the collaboration is a new paradigm. It's a complete paradigm shift in terms of positioning, in terms of domain, in terms of sectors, in terms of capital. In fact, sheer capital that's going to get deployed between both countries. It's humongous. And all this is kind of fuel to growth. And if India is talking about being one of the world's largest economies, I think all these are going to contribute directly to that. And and just to set the context here, we are taking a delegation to India in February, and this is a trade mission from World Trade Center, Utah. There are several, leaders in US, both the Indiaspora, US IBC, and US India Chambers of Commerce. Many have asked me this question. Look, all these chambers of commerce and US IBC are doing a lot of work in the collaboration space. So, what is new about Indus International Research Foundation, right? So, what is the new story about this? So what we are doing is we are actually focusing on geographies that India is not aware of, or it's not on the radar, right? So when India looks at US for opportunities, they're looking at Virginia, they're looking at New York, California, Florida, Texas, and the conversation ends with 7 to 8 states on the radar. But there are states like Indiana, like Utah, like Colorado, which is the huge opportunities there. And for some of you who might be new to this geography, Utah is actually shaping up to be a viable alternative to Silicon Valley. And pun intended, they call Utah Silicon Slopes and California Silicon Valley. And what does it mean for us in India? It means there's another Silicon Valley emerging in Utah, and it's at an early stage, and they have a huge focus on aerospace and defense, and we will have leaders of aerospace and defense industry accompanying us on the delegation to India, and some of you may have an opportunity to meet them. So what we're doing from a think tank is we're opening new windows, new doors in the US, geographies that were not very apparent. We're kind of bringing them to the forefront. And that's really what excites me to be a part of this whole transformation, where we have the opportunity to, in real time, bring newer geographies, hidden opportunities, unknown opportunities to India that will also help in bilateral trade, commerce, and of course, directly impact sectors like aerospace and defense. And this is a little bit of information on Utah. It's not a whole lot. It's home to prestigious companies like Boeing, Duncan Aviation, Janicki, Lockheed Martin, L3Harris, Northrop Grumman, and many more. In fact, the chairman of Utah Aerospace and Defense Association, Aaron Starks, will be with us on the delegation, and he will be in Bangalore. So you all will get an opportunity to meet him in person, and that is collaboration as we walk the talk from a think tank perspective. And as of 2020, Utah aerospace industry accounted for 944 establishments and 31,390 employees. So Pricewaterhouse ranks Utah number 4 in the nation for aerospace manufacturing attractiveness, and Hill Air Force Base is home to the F-35 Lightning. I'm sure all of you in the defense community relate to these data points. So this is an opportunity that we are looking forward to. And I must also clarify that it's not just aerospace and defense. So some of the focus sectors for this delegation is going to be life sciences, nutraceuticals, and technology, artificial intelligence. And I don't think any business discussion or collaboration discussion can be complete without artificial intelligence, and which of course cuts across all verticals. And there's also a thought to bring in the semiconductor component in this delegation. So what is the main purpose of this delegation? Right. So Utah's trade mission is mainly to explore opportunities to collaborate within India. There are several companies in Utah that are wanting to partner with Indian companies, and they don't have a mechanism to find a credible path. Of course, there are the big boys and the large consulting firms which can facilitate that. But from a World Trade Center perspective, they want to build their own channel to kind of encourage Utah companies to collaborate with India. They took a delegation to Mexico, they took a delegation to France and UK in 23, and in 24, India is their focus, and they really want to cement a relationship with India. It is an opportunity for all of us at a individual level, at a corporate level, and for think tanks like us, it's a great opportunity to walk the talk. Our vision of helping the ecosystem and in policymaking, in collaboration, in the sectors that are dear to us, starting with aerospace and defense. It's a great opportunity for us to give back. And I'll kind of pause here and take any questions. I don't know whether I exceeded time, General Sani. I was kind of so involved, I didn't even look at the clock. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Don't worry at all. I think you're very much in time. And I think the last bit that you shared, other than the initial bit, is actually would be of interest to if people from the industry are on board today, or at least for people who are dealing with industry. But
Sure.
thank you very much, Mr. Guru. I think you covered a great expanse, I think, and you gave a flavor of what really is there, because you're absolutely right. When you look at technology and you look at the bigger companies, Utah actually really didn't figure in our horizon as far as India was concerned. So I'm sure people who are in the specific sectors would have been aware, but great to hear all what you've said. I think we're open first to questions, and then we can try and at the end of the thing, it's 11:20, so we've got about 10-15 minutes of questions, and maybe 5 minutes for the last summing up. That between Guru and self, we'll do that.
Yeah, that's right, sir.
Anil, what about you? Any comments? This thing? It'll always be a pleasure to hear your points here.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, Guru, it's been a great exposition. Really, a lot of facts, a lot of figures, and we do see a lot of opportunity that is manifesting. But to do justice to this kind of an initiative, which is, if I may say, the first of its kind, and with ISET and other such initiatives happening in parallel, I feel that we need to look at this whole relationship from maybe a 5-lens perspective. The first is the R&D lens. And why I put it as number one is because when you look at futuristic scenarios, I think the technology readiness levels from TRL1 to TRL9 are very important to capture. And that is where I think the first emphasis must go. Especially when we look at TRL 1 to 3, it is at the academia level. When we look at 4 to 6, it is academia industry level. And when you look at 7 to 9, it is industry to industry. So I think that is the first very important thing. Then, the youth bulge of India is 700 million. And the population of US is 350 million. So our youth is just twice the number, and that is one more motivation of the Indo-US relationship and one more opportunity, if I may say. And therefore, I think skill is the new collar, which we all must identify and see how this 700 million youth can be profitably harnessed through skills to create the new Indo-US, if I may say, human capital corridors. Because when we look at semiconductors, when we look at quantum, when we look at AI, when we look at manufacturing, I think this is a very big. So that is the second lens I would like to look through. The third is a product lens. Now, when we say manufacturing, at the end of the day, there is product. And if there is product, I think that lens is very important. And today, a lot of dialogue exists when we look at GE 414, whether transfer of technology will happen, full technology will get transferred 80%. I think we need to get beyond this. This is not the way we can make a, should I say, impactful dent into this initiative. And therefore, we should look at creating those kind of bridges where these things become redundant. And we look at the state of the art. I mean, we have to look together as a bond of trust. And I think product lens will be very important as to how do we look at it. Today, when the Prime Minister went to the US and after that to France, the Safran came up with their own engine, and of course, GE had their own. And to date, you find a lot of debates. I think all this needs to be put at rest by, should I say, strategizing the product lens. So that is the third one. The fourth one is a life cycle sustenance support, the MRO lens or the supply chain lens. So whenever we look at anything, I mean, there is a worm to tomb journey that we have to look at. And when we look at a worm to tomb journey, the worm starts with the TRL levels, and the tomb is where we look at the whole gamut of activities for life cycle sustenance support. And this brings in a new term, the business readiness level. So do we have the BRLs right? So we need to create the right BRLs. And the last is, fifth, I always say, is the program lens. That means everything should be looked as a program. If we look at mission semiconductor, it has to be an Indo-US program. If we look at mission quantum, it has to be an Indo-US program. If we look at any such activity, it has to be a program approach with projects, because if we have to look at this relationship, it is a long-term marathon. Let's not treat it as one-off or short terms. I said is nothing short term. None of these relationships is, because in the short term, it will wither away. I mean, it will be too myopic and too tactical. If it has to have the strategic depth, we have to look at it like the 100-year marathon, which Michael Pilsberg put together for China. I think that is the kind of relationship we have to look at in the long run. So to my mind, I think if we harness the whole gamut into these 5 pillars, and since you're now, should I say, strategizing the WTC UTA visit to India, I think we need to focus very, very deliberately on this so that we have some very, very well-listed deliverables with milestones in this journey over a couple of decades. Thank you. I think, but it was very interesting to listen to you.
Thank you, Anil. I think absolutely outstanding. I think you've sort of summed it up. I think you should be chairing these sessions. I've come to the firm conclusion. Your awareness levels are far superior on these.
I also wanted to mention, special thanks to General Sani and Dr. Anil Kapoor for being so helpful, even as we're preparing to get this delegation moving. It's a large initiative. It's a substantially strategic initiative as well. It has several moving parts, and both of you have been so forthcoming in terms of support and connecting us with who's who of the Indian leadership and chambers of commerce and industry, etc. So I think that support is overwhelming, and I've also conveyed that to World Trade Center. They're aware of the kind of hard work and support that's coming from all of you in IIRF, from IIRF India. So just wanted to thank Dr. Kapoor and General Sani before we close today.
Any questions? One suggestion, Guru, which I would like to now say, that as taking off from where Anil has mentioned, I was thinking that to some of the under the bucket list of the 5 or 6 subheads that you have spoken about, where we are looking at industry coming from Utah and looking for collaboration, exposure.
Right.
It's great from your official thing if you could send direct letters to some of the bigger companies. I'll just give an example. Like you're having in Bangalore, if you're looking at semiconductors, please address letters directly to Tata Technologies and Tata LXC.
Okay.
You look at Castle itself, which is a big player in aviation, and as you said, you've got Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and we're doing JVs with them on some specific issues already in Tata. So right to Tata Aerospace and Defense, Mr. Banmali. I'll share the numbers online. I'll share the names. So by name you send to them, and in that, if you mention that we are holding a seminar with IIRF on the 1st, and we'll be delighted for their participation and sharing the stage with us, including you could have offline, in the sense we could also have discussion rooms on the side wherever we are. We could have a one as well where people are there. It will also give visibility to the event and also get some of the bigger players in. The second thing on software, which you mentioned, which I think is very right. Today, most centers of excellence in a large area of software developmental, most from all the developed world, seem to are located either in Bangalore or are located in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
They would. So I mean, I'm sure Sandeep can help out, or from there, that we get names of some of these center of excellence heads which are being managed, pull them in, and maybe that would also give you an idea about the experience that they have, the areas, the path ahead, how you need to take it forward. I think those are two issues which I would recommend in preparation. And the earlier we send those letters, the better it is, because winter months from Jan to March, April are extremely tight. There are too many delegations coming in, going out. And by the time to March, you are coming to that quarter ending where board meetings take over the whole issue. So a lot of senior people will move off for their last quarter 23-24 board meetings, and which actually get spread over the period of time. The budget would have just been sorted out and being debated. So there would be implications of the new budget, this thing which would be released by the government of India before they. So I need questions now, please. Yeah, Rishi, I think you raised the hand, please.
Well, sir,
Yeah,
actually,
before that, I just want to tell,
Yes,
take on from what General Sani has said. It would be good to write the letters. In fact, I was going to say that you should also write a letter to the government of Karnataka, to the industry minister, government of Karnataka also.
Correct.
And I would request you to write to the two universities, that is Christ University as well as Ramaiah University. We can give all the data, and this will definitely make a difference as far as the attendance, as far as the involvement of all these you want to be there. So that's a very important aspect which can be done. We can get offline and discuss that thing separately also.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, let's get all the letters out this week.
Yeah. The questions, who's there? I think Rishi, yours was the first hand. Yeah, please.
Sir, I just put a couple of questions in the chat box. One is about, I think Mr. Sowle already touched on Russia. The fact is that Dr. Jaishankar made it clear that India won't stop being on good terms with Russia, even if it's close to the US. But would you wish to say anything more on the Russia issue?
Yeah, I think just be aware that the change. Russia used to be our biggest defense exporter. I mean, to India. I mean, we were it used to be the largest shareholder. I think the US overtook it last year. Yeah, it became 17%, and I think Russia went to 16%. If I'm not wrong, I read these figures somewhere. So issue is, I don't think it is either or situation. It is and situation, and the space exists for and. So we shouldn't worry when you're looking at Utah whether it is going to step into Russian areas or this. I think look at opportunities that exist. Just to give an example from what Anil said, I think if you're looking at that bucket 4 of MROs, the Israelis are coming in a big wave of MROs. Now, if you've got the MQ-9 coming in here and you've got the maritime reconnaissance aircrafts available to us, why can't we have an MRO facility coming up here which looks at countries from Japan, looks at those which are there of resources deployed in Australia, and India becomes the hub for doing this thing, which would be equally cheaper and much more economical. So that kind of an area, that's the kind of area I think we should explore and not worry about what Russia is doing. I mean, my view on that, personal view, Rishi. Yeah.
The other thing is, Utah is not close. India's preference, when Mr. Guru Sowle talked about states on the east coast and west coast, somehow there has been a preference for coastal states. Now, Utah is not very close to the nearest port. I mean, you may still have to come to California or some Oregon or some other state for a port, because these huge items have to be sent by sea. Take it or leave it. So, how do you overcome that? advantage that maritime states of America naturally have. How does a state like Utah overcome that?
Yeah, so I think there's a different angle to that. Obviously, you know, coastal states are always at an advantage. For example, Bombay is better than Bangalore any given day because they have the seaport and a harbor, etc. I think we're looking at it from a holistic perspective, right? It's not just the last mile transportation, and I know Utah government is working on the last mile transportation, and they're coming up with a solution. And I'm sure when the delegation is there, they'll throw much more light on that. I may not be an expert to answer that question, but I do know that they're working on that specific aspect of not being close to the sea. But I can get back to you with the details. But where the focus is today from Utah perspective, the states like Utah, there's so much of capital available. There are natural resources available, space infrastructure available, and they're welcoming the global industry to go there, right? To the extent that they're also willing to help Indian companies find investments as they move to the US, and they're very proactive about it. And by the way, the CEO of Economic Development Council, Scott, is also accompanying on the delegation. Because so the kind of incentives and the opportunity they're providing for small and medium companies to explore US as a new geography is very impressive, and that might make it possible for small companies in Bangalore, for example, to look at US from a very viable perspective. So and the supply chain is just one part of the whole challenge, and they have a solution for that.
As far as MRO is concerned, I think on the maritime level, MRO is already being planned in Andaman and Nicobar. It is in the pipeline. That has already been planned for in the southernmost island where Indira Point is there, and some area has been already been identified. That is, MRO is a very important aspect, like Jem Sani has brought, because without that, we had a problem when we provided things, aircrafts and things like that outside, and even I think Argentina, Brazil, or some countries said that you cannot maintain it. How can we keep purchasing it from you? So this is a very important aspect, which I'm sure some people will cover it who are coming with you during the visit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think somebody had raised their hand. Is
Yeah.
it?
Sir, myself.
Alka had raised, and she is there.
Alka has left, sir. Alka had a class, so she left. I had a question, if I'm permitted, sir.
Please.
Yeah, Mr. Guru, this question is for you. You have mentioned that you are bringing a delegation of US companies, small and medium companies, to India to explore business possibilities. I'm sure this is a good opportunity for the small, medium, and industries who are located in Bangalore or in India, in that region. So my question is, what will you advise the Indian counterparts, the industries in India who are our prime audience in these lecture series and who are going to be our main participants when your delegation comes? What kind of preparation do you want them to take, and what are the things takeaways they can expect through this meeting? If you can really throw some light on that.
Sure.
Before you answer, can I just request? I was seeing on the chat thing, people like Mr. Jha, Bridge Bharat, Drone Space, people who are there from the industry. I mean, I'd be delighted to hear your comments here, because that will help us to also meet the aspirations. I mean, you're the guys who are the people who are the, as they say, the hands-on executors. So you know it better than us, that what is it that would suit your thing. So while Mr. Guru answers this, I'd request some of these people who are on line, it'd be great to listen to your suggestions, oblique comments. Thanks. Over to you.
That was great. Thanks, General Sani. So going back to Group Captain Mehta's question, there are 2-3 things we're looking at, right? So let's look at a scenario where there's a small and medium company, whether it's Bangalore or anywhere else in India, it doesn't matter. Geography is, irrespective here. So we're looking at opportunities to partner with US companies. Now, what Utah is looking at is to develop potential partnerships in India with Indian companies, with small and medium Indian companies. And they know there's Boeing, Lockheed Martin, there's all the big boys are already there in India. They know that. That's really not the focus, although they'll be motivated to meet them. They're looking at the small and medium sector to create partnerships for Utah-based companies, so that their supply chain is addressed, and they're able to expand into India. And they're also looking at sourcing from India. And some of them are looking at sourcing human resources, sourcing products, sourcing technology, and General Sani mentioned about design. General Kapoor as well mentioned about it. So they also look at India as a design hub, right? So we are developing a list of companies that are going to be on the delegation, and we'll come back to you with specifically what is it that each company is looking for. But at a high level, the opportunity for companies in India participating in this is a collaboration opportunity. It could be an export opportunity. It could be an opportunity to kind of use Utah's resources to move to US and set up their shop if they're interested. And some larger companies, it's not restricted to small and medium companies. If there's a big company, Utah is more than happy to even set up a cluster program where they can bring 15, 20 companies together into Utah. So there are all kinds of possibilities. In addition, they're also very proactive in introducing investors to the Indian companies. In fact, I've already, outside this delegation, I've already referred a few Indian companies, and they've been helping in terms of investor introductions, and the VCs in Utah are quite forthcoming. So any economic development happening in that region, they're willing to support financially as well. And I think that's a great opportunity for Indian companies. And again, they recognize that not all companies can move to US. They don't have to. But in the interest of collaboration, they're willing to extend their support to India across continents.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anyone else? Any more? I'd be delighted to hear some of the people from the industry if they're there, or from the MSME sector. If anybody,
Yeah. Morning, gentlemen.
yeah, please.
I am from a company called Castcraft Private Limited. As such, we are a small-scale industry. We've been working with the aerospace, especially with HAL, AERDC from 2013-14 when they started to develop new engines. As such, so we have within ourselves, we have a 3D printing company, a casting company, and also a machining and assembly unit. That's how we got into this move with HAL. My question here is that we have seen delegations from France, from other places coming into India for the technology of working with the aerospace industry. Initially there were no restrictions or barriers to enter the same, but later on they said that AS certification is a minimum that to enter it. And then they said, the Boeing or Airbus said that we do not want to go into direct contacts with y'all. Y'all approach the tier 1 people, they will then develop it and go ahead. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is that we have seen that in India, most of the companies in aerospace are doing more of static parts or not dynamic parts. So as such, so we see a lot of these, we're not having any clarity as such. Whereas in Castcraft, we went into with the HAL to manufacture some of the engine components like the rotors, the blisks, the gearboxes, and other things. So we'd like more clarity rather than just come in there and both of us don't have a fruitful relationship as such as to what you are looking at. Yes, I did agree. I did understand from Mr. Guru that you are preparing your chart and coming forward. So if you can come up with a questionnaire, what it is, that will be much more beneficial and fruitful for all of us. Thank you.
Exactly. Very right.
Thank you very much. Great points, sir. The worry
Anybody
for
else?
dealing with small, I think segment companies have it easier, but the small scale and the MSMEs, there is a bit of a, or SMEs, there is a bit of a challenge. But I think great points, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else, please?
Trying to make
Sandeep, please.
Guru. Today, social media is the most, is a driver. So there, I would recommend it would be good to make a small video by visiting companies and WTO as to what they are looking at and what all approvals they have got from the government for coming here.
Great.
And from both sides, what is the support being provided? Because social media is the thing which is going to make people, they will see, and with this questionnaire also, which Mr. Swami has said, and the social media posts, and things will come, questions will come in various social media, as well as question can come to us also, that address can be given, number can be given. So then, what is the government support for both countries they have got? What are the government support which will be required additionally? And put all these things together, and it should be done by those companies and WTC people and the university, Utah University and all those people. Make small 5 minutes videos, because nobody has got the time to see more than 5 minutes. And all these MSMEs, we can get it through the TechNode, the various other channels. We can get these small video clips passed on to that, and that will make them aware of what exactly, like this point which has come from Mr. Swami. It's a very valid point.
Yeah, in fact, just to reinforce what you said and what Mr. Swami said, we are, scheduled to discuss a PR strategy with World Trade Center. The call is scheduled for this week. Social media is a big play. I think we got to leverage that, and together we need to find resources, both from World Trade Center perspective as well as from IIRF perspective, on what's going to be our social media strategy and how will we go ahead and implement it. And going back to Mr. Swami's input, is a great point. I think we'll have to get very granular in terms of making this visit much more effective and impactful. But at the same time, I want to kind of caveat the discussion. This World Trade Center mission, Mr. Swami, this is the first time Utah Trade Mission is going to India as World Trade Center, and this is purely exploratory for them. They're very interested in understanding the landscape of Indian industry and where the opportunities are, and companies like yours, you're more than welcome to come and share your thoughts and present what you have, etc., and we can figure out how to facilitate those one-on-one meetings on the side as we have the National Defense Conclave. So we'll kind of facilitate all of that, and our Indian team is already gearing up to take care of all of that. So this is exploratory. So we're not expecting any major deals to be signed on this visit, but we definitely want to make it as efficient as possible in terms of specific outcomes. General
Thank
Sani?
you, sir. Definitely, I mean, say all. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
No, definitely, your Guru, your feedback is well appreciated. But we do look forward, to have a positive dialogue. Not that all our dialogues always end up with a business deal as such. That's definitely not there. It's just that it will be fruitful for both the delegations and the teams coming in. That is our only intention. Just to give you a backdrop, we already are doing some business in Utah, but it's not with the aerospace industry, but with the oil and gas industry as such.
Wonderful. No,
Thank
that's
you.
good to know. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent.
Any more questions? I think, Janna, I think we've exceeded time. It's been an
Yes, sir.
full discussion. So I think we could end, and I would just leave 3 or 4 points which I thought I would like to flag. I think the area of clean technology, though one hasn't looked at it, that was one of the areas you said. It'd be interesting to get into that space. I mean, I do work with the environmental sector and with the livelihood missions, and it'd be great to see a little more clarity on the clean technology, because that's an area which I think is of interest to all of us today with the climate change issues that are coming up. I would look at companies who are looking at improving the output and effectiveness of the legacy systems other than just getting emerging technologies and niche technologies. Today, you're looking at munitions, radars, missiles, you're looking at engineering products, you're looking at platforms, EV, space. I mean, it'd be great to see also the legacy systems being looked at, because that's a great area as far as India is concerned to step in for the small industries to sort of phase in and look at the indigenous products to break the supply chain. And I think joint development initiatives uh, may be a way forward. Otherwise, I know if there are critical technologies, getting ITA clearances will become a little tedious, I think. So if you have joint development initiatives, there is a possibility of joint IPRs, and that I think maybe in a way, I'm not expert on that, but I think may circumvent a certain amount of the policy hurdles that do come in between as far as the two countries to sharing of these new area technologies are concerned. And in the end, I will only say we're looking forward to your visit, and let's see where we can sort of come in. All people from uniform working towards an industrial move is something new, and it's going to be a great experience for us as well to see how it goes ahead. With that, I hand over to you, Guru, for your last words before after that the closing remarks by Sandeep. Yeah.
Thank you, General Sani. As I said initially, it's an honor to share the platform with you.
Yes.
Thanks to all the board members in IIRF India. They've been working very hard to get the think tank to where it is today, and of course in the US. There's a lot of anticipation as well from a delegation standpoint, and this is also the first time that we are leading a delegation, and any amount of support is more than welcome, and we're kind of banking on the combined positive energy that's generated every time we meet in this forum. And before I sign off, I also wanted to wish Group Captain Mehta a very happy birthday, many happy returns.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. And you all have my contact number, and feel free to share it with any other company that want to interact. We can keep it as flat as possible in terms of communication, and see how best we can be helpful to the industrial community in India. And I think Swami's point is just one of those representations that really helps. And there could be many more with similar feedback. And thanks to Mr. Swami for being so forthcoming on your feedback.
It has been a very thought-provoking discussion which has happened, and a lot of good things have come out. A lot of people have got involved in this thing. I'm sure this recording will also be seen by some industries, which we will be circulating. And we have to get into more practical aspect, grounded approach, and so that the visit program and our event becomes a successful thing. Thanks, Guru sir, and thanks, General Sani sir. It has been
Thank you very much. Thanks, Sandeep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sandeep sir. On behalf of IIRF, I thank all the participants, our guest speakers, and the industry people who took part today. And I wish to just convey that if you have any questions on every query regarding our activities, you are most welcome to get in touch with us. We have your visit our website, and you have our email address there. And I will sure be circulating those who have not been able to attend. I will circulate the recording to all of you, and please come forward if you have any queries. And look forward to your